The roadside diner sat alone along a long stretch of highway in the American Midwest, the kind of place truckers and travelers stopped when the fuel gauge dipped low and the sky started to fade into orange. Inside, the smell of coffee and fried food hung in the air, and the low hum of conversation mixed with the clinking of plates. Half the booths were occupied by bikers, big men in worn leather jackets, club patches stitched proudly on their backs. Their motorcycles were lined up outside like steel horses, engines still ticking as they cooled. Most people in the diner tried not to stare. The bikers weren't causing trouble, but their presence alone made the room feel tense. The waitress moved carefully between tables, forcing polite smiles, while an elderly couple whispered to each other near the window. Then the front door swung open with a sharp ring of the bell. A little girl, no older than 8, stood frozen in the doorway. Her hair was messy, her cheeks streaked with tears. She took a shaky step inside and looked around the room, her wide eyes filled with fear. Mom, she called out, her voice barely louder than a whisper. The diner went silent. Forks paused mid-air. Coffee cups stopped halfway to lips. Even the bikers turned their heads. The girl swallowed hard and tried again, louder this time, panic creeping into her voice. Mom, please, Mommy. The waitress rushed forward, kneeling in front of her. Honey, are you okay? Where's your mom? The girl's lower lip trembled. She's outside. She fell down. She won't wake up. A wave of unease swept through the room. People exchanged worried glances, but no one moved right away. Fear has a way of freezing people in place, especially when they don't know what they're stepping into. At the far end of the diner, a large biker with a gray beard slowly pushed his booth seat back. The leather creaked as he stood. He didn't look angry or rushed, just focused. Without saying a word, he walked toward the door. Another biker nudged his friend. You hear that? Yeah, the other replied quietly, already rising to his feet. The bell rang again as the first biker stepped outside. Cold air rushed in, carrying the distant sound of passing cars. A few seconds later, 2 more bikers followed. Inside, the little girl clutched the waitress's arm, her eyes glued to the door. Outside in the parking lot, a woman lay on the ground beside an old sedan. Her purse was spilled open, groceries scattered nearby. The biker knelt down carefully, checking her breathing, his movements calm and practiced. He placed 2 fingers on her neck, then leaned closer, listening. She's breathing, he said firmly. But she's out cold. Another biker pulled out his phone. Calling 911 now. Inside the diner, the silence felt heavier than before. No one knew exactly what was happening out there, but something had shifted. The fear people expected from the bikers was gone, replaced by something unexpected, quiet determination. The little girl whispered again, more to herself than anyone else, please be okay, Mom. And outside, the bikers were already doing everything they could to make sure she would be. The flashing red and blue lights cut through the fading daylight, reflecting off chrome handlebars and diner windows. The sound of sirens grew louder until the ambulance finally pulled into the parking lot. By then, the bikers had already taken control of the scene with calm efficiency. One stood in the road, arms out, slowing down passing cars. Another gathered the spilled groceries, stacking them neatly away from the woman on the ground. The little girl stood just outside the diner door now, wrapped in an oversized leather jacket that nearly swallowed her. One of the bikers had gently placed it around her shoulders to keep her warm. She clutched it tightly, breathing fast, her eyes never leaving her mother. It's okay, sweetheart, the biker beside her said softly, kneeling to be at her eye level. His voice was deep but gentle. Help's here now. The paramedics jumped out of the ambulance and quickly assessed the situation. The gray-bearded biker stepped back immediately, giving them space, answering their questions clearly and calmly. She collapsed about 10 minutes ago, he said. Breathing steady. Pulse is weak but there. They nodded, impressed by how smoothly everything had been handled. As they worked, the woman slowly stirred, her eyelids fluttering. The little girl gasped. Mom, Mommy, she cried, trying to run forward. One of the bikers carefully held her back. Not roughly, just enough to keep her safe. Easy, kiddo, let them do their job. The woman's eyes opened slightly. Emma, she whispered. I'm here, Mom, I'm here. The girl shouted through tears. The paramedic smiled. She's conscious. That's a good sign. Relief washed over the parking lot like a warm wave. Even people inside the diner leaned forward in their seats, watching through the windows. Fear had turned into hope, and then into something deeper, respect. After a few minutes, the woman was helped onto a stretcher. The paramedics explained she was severely dehydrated and exhausted but would be okay with treatment. The little girl reached out, grabbing the biker's hand. "Thank you," she said, her voice small but sincere. "You helped my mom." He swallowed hard, then nodded. "Anytime." As the ambulance doors closed, the bikers stepped back, returning traffic to normal. Engines were restarted, but no one rushed off. Instead, they gathered quietly, watching until the ambulance disappeared down the highway. Inside the diner, the atmosphere had completely changed. The waitress brought out fresh coffee, on the house, and set it down at the biker's table. "For what you did," she said, her voice thick with emotion. The gray-bearded biker tipped his head in thanks. "Just did what anyone should." But everyone there knew that wasn't true. Many had been afraid to move, afraid of doing the wrong thing. The bikers hadn't hesitated. As the little girl climbed into the back of the police car to follow the ambulance to the hospital, she waved one last time. Several bikers waved back, some awkwardly, some with small smiles. That day, in a small American town, a story was born, one that would be told for years. A story about a frightened child, a collapsed mother, and a group of bikers who proved that kindness doesn't always look the way people expect it to. The hospital hallway smelled of disinfectant and quiet worry. Emma sat on a plastic chair, her feet not quite touching the floor, swinging back and forth as she waited. The leather jacket still rested on her shoulders, far too big, its sleeves folded up again and again. A nurse had offered her a blanket, but Emma shook her head. She didn't want to take it off. To her, the jacket felt like safety. Through the double doors, doctors moved quickly, speaking in calm, professional voices. Emma watched every face that passed, searching for answers. A police officer sat nearby, offering her a juice box and a gentle smile. Still, her eyes kept drifting back to the entrance, half expecting to see the bikers walk in. After what felt like forever, a doctor finally approached her. He knelt down so they were eye to eye. "Your mom is going to be okay," he said kindly. "She was very tired and dehydrated, but we caught it in time." Emma let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time they weren't from fear. They were from relief. A short while later, she was allowed to see her mother. The woman looked pale but awake, hooked up to monitors that beeped softly. When she saw Emma, her eyes filled with tears. "You were so brave," her mother whispered. "You saved me." Emma shook her head. "The bikers helped," she said seriously. "They were really nice." Her mother frowned slightly. "Bikers." Emma nodded eagerly and told her everything. How she ran into the diner, how scary it felt, and how the men everyone seemed afraid of were the first ones to help. As she spoke, her mother listened carefully, emotion washing over her face. The next day, word spread through the town faster than wildfire. Someone from the diner posted about it online. Others shared their side of the story. Soon, comments poured in, people admitting they'd judged too quickly, people thanking the bikers for stepping up when others froze. 2 days later, just before Emma's mother was discharged, a familiar rumble echoed outside the hospital. Emma looked up, eyes wide. Through the window, she saw them, motorcycles lined up neatly, riders removing their helmets. Her heart raced. They didn't stay long. The gray-bearded biker handed Emma a small stuffed bear with a tiny leather vest stitched onto it. "So you don't forget us," he said. Emma hugged it tightly. "I won't," she promised. Then, without hesitation, she shrugged off the leather jacket and held it out. "You need this more than me." He smiled softly. "Keep it," he said. "It suits you." As they left, hospital staff and visitors watched in silence, not with fear, but with admiration. Weeks later, back at the diner, the story was still told. But it wasn't about danger or fear anymore. It was about how a child's cry for her mother revealed the truth, that kindness can come from the most unexpected places, and sometimes, the people who look the toughest are the ones who show up when it matters most. Life slowly returned to normal, but for Emma and her mother, normal no longer meant the same thing. Back at their small rented house near the highway, mornings felt quieter, softer. Emma's mother moved more carefully now, always carrying a water bottle, always resting when her body asked her to. She had learned a hard lesson, but she had also gained something unexpected, faith in people she once feared. Emma kept the stuffed bear on her bed and the leather jacket folded neatly at the foot. Sometimes, when she felt scared or lonely, she would wrap the jacket around herself and remember the calm voices in the parking lot, the strong hands guiding cars away, the way help arrived without being asked twice. One afternoon, Emma's mother suggested they go back to the diner. Emma froze. The same one. Yes, her mother said gently. I think we owe some people a thank you. The bell above the diner door rang just like before. The smell of coffee and food filled the air. Emma's heart beat faster, but this time, she wasn't afraid. People looked up and smiled. The waitress recognized them instantly. You're the little girl, she said, stepping out from behind the counter. We've been wondering how you both are. Emma's mother smiled. Thanks to you, and others, we're doing well. They sat at a booth near the window. On the wall behind the counter, Emma noticed something new. A small framed photo of motorcycles parked outside the diner, with a handwritten note beneath it. True heroes don't always wear uniforms. Emma pointed at it. That's them. The waitress nodded. Sure is. As they ate, the diner door opened again. The familiar rumble of engines faded as a few bikers stepped inside. Emma's eyes widened. One of them noticed her and paused, then smiled. Well, look who it is, the gray-bearded biker said. Emma slid out of the booth and ran over, stopping just short. My mom's okay, she announced proudly. He nodded. I figured she would be. Emma's mother stood, her voice steady but emotional. I never got to thank you properly, she said. You saved my life. He shook his head. You'd do the same. She looked around the diner, at the people listening quietly. I don't think I would have been that brave, she admitted. But my daughter was, and so were you. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the biker cleared his throat. Kid's got a strong voice, he said, looking at Emma. That call for her mom. That's what started everything. Emma smiled shyly. When the bikers left, the diner felt warmer somehow, like something invisible had changed. Emma understood it now. Not all stories are about fear. Some are about learning. Years later, Emma would remember that day whenever she heard a motorcycle on the highway. She would remember that calling out for help is never weakness, and that kindness doesn't wear one face. And every time she told the story, she told it the same way. She called out for her mother, and everything changed.